So this is for the Ubuntu Scopes Showdown, if you have heard about it. It's a competition to make scopes for Ubuntu and for the phone. So we are with Marcus Tomlinson. Marcus.
Hey. Okay, so
yes.
yeah, quick introduction. I'm Marcus Tomlinson. I work in the Unity APIs team. So I work on a whole bunch of APIs for Unity, notifications, indicators, all kinds of things. But mainly I've been involved in the Scopes API project, right from the base API, C++ API, and recently headed up the JavaScript bindings project. I'm pretty much involved in all levels, right from the low-level RPC right up to the shell plugin. So, yeah, that's me.
So the new JavaScript bindings have landed around October, November, I think. Have you had any big bugs or big issues so far with it?
Yeah, I guess probably the only bugs that we're really seeing are things we've overlooked. The Scopes API is quite a large project. So when binding, it can be easy to kind of miss those edge cases or some possible uses that we didn't fully bind. So there hasn't been really any major issues with the API. I think some people have some problems with the SDK. We try as much as we can to help the SDK guys fixing those problems. And it's really just a matter of binding certain things that we forgot to bind. Like I said, it was a really massive project. We try to do what we did well. So what is bound does work really well. I think we haven't got a lot of bugs for that stuff, but it's just things we forgot about. So yeah, I think all in all, it's been pretty successful.
Cool. Well, I still have a small issue with buttons, but we'll dig into this. So, if you are on IRC and if you have any questions, make sure you prefix your questions with questions in caps. Oh, here it is. Question from Dragonbite. Is there a performance hit using JavaScript over the other language? The other language being C++ or Go?
Yes. Yeah, there's going to be. I mean, we're talking about an interpreted language over a compiled language here. So yeah, sure, you write your scope in C++, is going to have a little more performance, but not anything that you're going to notice. We have done benchmarking. Node, as you know, is really high performance project. Really, when it comes to scopes, your bottlenecks are not in the performance of your code. They're network related. So things like going and pulling a bunch of information from an online API and bringing it back, that's where your bottlenecks are going to be. And when you're looking at the same bottlenecks existing for all languages, in that matter, the language is not really making much of a difference. Yeah, there's going to be a performance hit. Yeah, I can say yeah, but that's more a academic answer than one that I can see or experience.
Yes, I can confirm this. I've replicated a few of my C++ scopes in JavaScript, and the only performance degradation I've seen is just network one, So it's really the same. There isn't a visible difference. Do we have any more questions? Nope. So, Marcus, In terms of bindings, are we at 100% coverage, or?
No, we're not. One of the major holes that we have in the bindings is aggregation, and at the moment it's a bigger problem than bindings. We don't support aggregators in our scope at the moment, and that's a security decision. An aggregator, we have two security policies really with scopes, and that is you can either access local files or you can access network. If we go and allow scopes to do both, we have a security problem on our hands where you can go and access something locally and go and ship it off to a remote server. So this is why we've held back allowing aggregators in our store, because then someone could write an aggregator that has one scope accessing local things, passes up the results, and then that aggregator goes and passes it off to a network scope. So we've put off binding that because it's not a great, it's not a requirement at this point, so that's not there. Like I said, the only bugs we're getting are things that we may have overlooked. Binding is pretty good, I would say, not including aggregation, where we must be, I don't know, probably near 90%. I say that because I'm always surprised at how we forgot something, but it's not big things that we forget, and we are really active in the project. So if you do have a problem, there's literally been about a 24-hour turnaround with bug to fix at this point. So if you do see that something is missing or something is not working, really log the bug. We will try within 24 hours to get it sorted out.
Okay. Well, Ricardo G. Silva is asking a binding question. Can I use the new audio cards to allow music playback directly on the search page?
Inline playback?
Yeah, the new audio cards.
I think not. The unfortunate, you see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. So inline playback is something that landed probably a few weeks ago.
Yes,
and
a few weeks ago, and
yeah,
like improved yesterday. So it's very new.
Yeah, it's extremely new, and I think this raises a bigger problem, and I think I should probably talk about it. We're currently working on a much larger scale improvement of how we manage our bindings. It's like a long-lived problem where you have bindings that are never totally in sync with the base API. There's always this like buffer that you have to overcome between the base API being updated and then give it a couple of weeks and then the bindings all catch up. So one of the biggest problems is that we have guys that, on different time zones or on different teams that are working on the binding and working on the base API. So what we're working on internally is a much better process for us to flag updates for bindings when the base API updates. So yeah, we are aware of inline playback. We got filters coming through on the C++ API as well. We are planning to be a lot more in sync with the libraries as we go forward using these new tools that we have internally. But yes, unfortunately for now, inline playback is one that we do have to catch up on. It's not available at the moment.
Well, do you think it's going to be available before the end of the showdown?
Yeah, let me look into it. It's going to be me implementing it. So yeah, let me look into it tomorrow. Then let's see. Whoever asked the question, could you report a bug against the? Actually, I'm on the RT. Let me just paste it here. Whatever bugs you have reported against Unity JS scopes. Like I said, once the bug is there, then it's not out of mind, out of sight. It's right there in front of me. I will look into it. Hopefully, I'll get to it tomorrow and have a fix.
Okay, so another question: can I ship a new online account provider together with the scope?
Yes, you can. Although, okay, online accounts is a little bit of a tricky situation. If you, yeah, one thing that's worth mentioning at this point as well. The documentation for our base API is mostly reusable for the bindings as well, including JavaScript. So if you go to developer.ubuntu.com, let me also paste a link for this. Sorry. I'll get to why I'm talking about this. I'll paste it in the IRC channel. So if you go to our API docs, the base API docs for scopes, on that page, a little further down, you will get an online accounts section where very briefly I run through how to add online accounts to your scope. Please forgive me if I've led everyone there and there's no provider. Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, this is the bit of the issue. Online accounts is not really an API that it's not an API that we maintain. This is an API from another team. We are really just clients to it. So let me, during the session, let me just do some research. We can keep some questions coming. As soon as I find the documentation for the online accounts API, then I'll paste it in the IRC channel.
Okay. But the JavaScript API is here to call online accounts.
Sorry, say again?
The JavaScript API for GScopes is here to access online accounts.
Yeah, it is bound, yes.
Okay. So
it's available, but yeah, the question was, can you provide a new provider, or can you ship a new provider? Yeah, you can, but that includes shipping a .provider file with your scope, and there's very specific stuff you got to stick in there. That's where it gets out of our scope and into the web apps team. So yes, it is bound. It is possible. You can do it through JavaScript. I just would like to find the documentation for that provider file so that it's that we can wrap up the question.
I think I have a link. So if you go to developer.ubuntu.com, start platform and guides, there is an online accounts guide. I'm pasting the link on IRC. And you should have pretty much everything you need. Well, it's focused on QML, but in terms of shipping your online account provider, should be covered. Okay. Any more questions on IRC? Not for now, apparently. Marcus, so in terms of scopes, do you think we're going to see JavaScript scopes shipped by default? Like, is there a plan somewhere to ship a few JavaScript scopes by default?
You mean in the system image?
Yes.
I don't think there's been any work at the moment for internal scopes, but we have been surprised to see a good couple of scopes showing up in the store already. I think there's about 5 of them, and not all from the same developer either, so that's quite cool. The internal scopes, yeah, I think we could probably see more of them being written in JavaScript. I mean, I don't want to boast or toot my own horn, but I think the JavaScript bindings are really making things a lot easier. I mean, we've simplified the process a lot by going the JavaScript route. As more people give it a go and try it out. I think even internally we're going to have a lot more people writing JavaScript scopes, because it's just, the process is ridiculously easy now. I mean, you have one JavaScript file that's a couple hundred lines long, and you're competing against a C++ scope that takes a couple hundred lines of code in 10 files. So it's it's looking really good. I hope more people adapt it. Yeah,
I agree. If you know the API you are going to query, maybe in half an hour you can have a pretty decent scope. Actually, it's very fast.
Yeah, definitely. And with most online APIs returning JSON by default, I mean, there's probably 70% of them out there are doing that. The parsing is just ridiculously easy, as well as going back and forward, not just receiving data, but up and down is totally easy. It's really what I really like about what JavaScript does for scopes is that it really fits the domain really, really well. Scopes are servers. They're data servers. They take some requests and they pass back some information. And they fit so well in the JavaScript world in that they sit there between your online API and your user, and everything just flows really, really smoothly through it because it's designed to do exactly this. So it's actually a wonder why we didn't have JavaScript bindings earlier. So at least we have them.
Oh, Dragonbite has a great question. Is JavaScript scopes the gateway to get people in and then hope to push them to C++? Or will JavaScript always be a first-class citizen? I like that.
No, the intention isn't to have a limited JavaScript API and then bring people to C++. We do want JavaScript to be a first-class citizen, definitely. One of the crowds we did want to bring in was the web development guys. A lot of people are writing web container apps for phones. I mean, we saw it with Firefox. That's how they tried to enter the market. And we have a lot of people out there, a lot more people are likely to know JavaScript than C++. And if I say it the other way around, we have a very small community of people that know C++ well. So no, we do want JavaScript to be a first-class citizen. One group of people that we really obviously wanted to bring in was the Node crowd with using Node. But not only that, just the web developer guys as well, because what we're trying to do with scopes is really a much simpler entry point to developing for the phone. It's not like writing an app where the entire stack is basically up to you from UI right down to the backend. So we want to basically take it even further and make it even simpler for guys to write and open it up to a larger crowd. So yeah, the bindings are more pick your language and go for it. So if you're a Go programmer and you pick Go, that's not also through that direction. It's not a way to get people into using C++ or any other means. It's really just to try and open ourselves up to as many developers as possible.
Dragonbite is asking another question. Any other languages being looked at for being supported or included in the SDK?
Okay, so we have Go bindings. Saying they're not supported in the SDK is not entirely correct, but I would also say the same thing. So we might be looking into some other languages. I'm not in a position to say, but example, maybe another good language that's easy to write would be Python, but don't hold me to that. But in terms of the languages we currently have, I know Go, there isn't any templates in the SDK right now. But that was quite a complicated conversation we've been having for a while, because Go developers are usually guys that are using terminal anyway. They're using command line tools to compile and run. And so what we may need to do is redefine what we call the SDK. the SDK is too readily associated with Qt Creator now, and no one's to blame for it. I think it's just the way we've marketed it. But what we want to move towards is more an SDK being a collection of tools that allow you to develop. So what I would like to see going forward, and again, don't hold me to this because I'm not in a position to make these decisions, but things like including plugins for Eclipse even, or for other IDEs, or having command line tools that are easy enough to use that you could integrate into another development environment. Yeah, the SDK as a term, the definition of SDK may need to expand beyond the IDE. Yeah, so I don't think we will be getting Go templates. And I'm not sure about other languages right now. But again, going back to depending on the developer, Go developer, I think is not really at home using Qt Creator. Qt Creator it's basically jumping through hoops to try and get Qt Creator to compile the Go project. So that's another story.
You talked about Python a bit earlier, and honestly, I don't think we will have Python scopes, at least for ARM devices. We've had Python scopes for years on the desktop, and they are being.
I could reveal something interesting. I could reveal something interesting. There are some scopes that are already written in Python that we're using today. They live on our SmartScope server. So it's the scopes that you have on your phone when you first boot up Amazon, eBay, Weather Channel. These scopes are actually written in Python and sitting on a server.
This is correct.
But it's not a public API.
I actually wrote some of these. And, yes, this is the only place on the phone where you would have Python scopes. It's correct. So we have another question from Ricardo. How can I run my JS scopes on my phone when I get using the custom scope launcher is not yet supported on the SDK? Right.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a limitation with the SDK at the moment. I don't really recall why. I think it's a legacy problem. But custom scope runners it was difficult for them to attach a GDB server for debug onto these custom scope runners. It was easier for them to have a known executable, which was the scope runner that runs C++ scopes. Now, it's probably a limitation that can be removed. I've been trying to push for that to get updated, but it's not the SDK team's fault at all. They got a hell of a lot on their plate. So I may have to jump in to help there. However, it's not all is lost. To test your scope on the phone, all you basically have to do is on the SDK, hit your publish icon on the left of the SDK, and basically you have two options. There's two buttons on that screen. You build and validate your click package. That will make the click package, and then you can click install on the device. So as long as you have your device plugged in, you can hit install on the device, and then it will be on the device to play with. Obviously, this means that the SDK and the device won't be connected in terms of debugging or GDB, but yeah, at least you can run the scope on the phone. You can test it, and yeah, that's the route we take now.
Well, in terms of speaking of running scopes, I have a question. Do you know if we are going to see improvements to the Unity Scopes tool, which is a tool that currently allows to run scopes on the desktop outside of the dash in a small window that's akin to the Unity 8 dash. The Unity 8 dash, sorry. Do you know if we are going to see improvements to this tool?
Okay, so yeah, this is another big problem. Okay, I think I should stop saying problem. Interesting challenge. We have a bit of a challenge going forward with the Unity Scope tool, and it makes total sense when I explain it. Currently, we have to have very specific Scopes API and all the backend APIs and libraries installed on your desktop in order to run that tool. So if you're, I mean, you may be wanting to target an old phone. This is going to become a problem going forward. If you're targeting an older image and say you're on the bleeding edge Ubuntu on your desktop, we suddenly start running into the possibility of a problem between your desktop having APIs or at least a framework that's not tied in with the phone. Now, the Unity Scope tool and our Chroot frameworks are not working together at the moment, and that's the issue. So going forward, we're going to have to do some kind of virtualization. So this is on the cards for improvements. Yeah, basically we're going to either have to improve our emulator, and that would be the Android approach towards things. You have an emulator, and that would totally emulate the entire system. So, you know, going forward, you can be on Xenial and go have an emulator for Vivid, test it out, stick it on your Vivid phone, and know that it's going to work. So yeah, there's a whole lot of really big things planned for that. The other option is to obviously just ensure that the frameworks from the Chroot can be run, or LXC containers. There's a couple of options we can take there. But yeah, the Unity Scope tool as it is right now may look a lot different come a few months. So yeah, there are some big plans, big improvements that need to happen.
Nice. A question from Dragonbyte. These scopes are for Unity 8, which is coming to the desktop soon, and there is a tablet to come out in March. Does the different form factors cause any problems with development and debugging?
No, we've actually, so scopes have been designed to be adaptive to different screen sizes. If you look at your category layouts, when you pass back your preview objects from the preview method, you can go and set up how you want the elements to appear on your preview, depending on how many columns appear, and that's really how it adapts to a larger screen. So your scope can look a certain way if there's only one column, and then you open it up maybe to a larger phone. It has 2 columns, and then a tablet has 3 columns, etc. I mean, it's very likely we're going to have a whole bunch of new challenges to have to meet as we continue with the convergence story. But currently, just following that category layout scheme, we've really got a nice experience. We've got the same scopes running on phones, tablets, and PCs already being demoed, and they're ready to be demoed at MWC as well, and they're looking really good. So that, I guess, is another great thing about developing scopes, is that you develop a scope now, that scope is going to last a really long time. It's going to stand the test of time. It's going to end up on the PCs one day. It's a really good investment, rather than, I mean, an app an app causes more problems than a scope. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, one thing to note about this is that after a few years of a lot of changes, the API is now very stable, and I know that the team is committed to not break this API. So this is very good looking maybe 1 or 2 years forward. Scopes are stable, which is good. Dragonbyte is asking, any suggestion for development and debugging scopes when you don't have an Ubuntu phone, or just use the SDK emulator? Personally, I would suggest to use Unity Scopes tool, which is what pops up by default when you pick a desktop kit in the SDK and you try to run a scope. It will just open this tool. I wouldn't recommend the emulator right now. It's quite buggy and a lot of people are having issues with it. So yeah.
In fact, even, sorry if I could say that, even if you do have a phone, it's actually really useful to run the scope from the SDK as well, because the really nice thing you get with the tool that pops up is that you can drag it larger, you can full screen it, and then you can test your column layouts like we were talking about just now. So you can try it out as a full screen application, you can try it, stretch it to a tablet size, stretch it long ways, stretch it wide ways, and you can see what it looks like in different profiles. That's really useful anyway. In fact, testing on the device for me is something I do nearer to the end anyway. So yeah.
Also note that you can with this tool change your category and card layouts. You can try completely different layout just in the tool and see if it works for your scope or not. So this is very interesting. Looks like we are out of questions for now. So Marcus, you have been working on Ubuntu for how long?
I've been working at the company for how long?
Well, at the company and with Ubuntu for how long?
Oh, with Ubuntu? For very long. I've never really stuck to one specific operating system for a long time. I used to be a Windows guy, and then I switched to Mac. But no matter which operating system I was using, I always had a VM or a server running with Ubuntu. So, or a Raspberry Pi running Ubuntu on it. So I've always got Ubuntu in my life. So probably 15 years maybe.
Wow.
It's yeah. One thing I'm a C++ programmer, so one thing I do a lot is in any of my open source projects that I write, I always intend to have them cross-platform. So Ubuntu is my development machine always, and so I've always got a mix. I've got a Windows machine and a Mac, and I always got something to test my programs across. But Ubuntu is always my go-to for development.
Cool. Can you tell us a bit more about how Node.js integrates with JavaScript scopes? I mean, it is the engine behind JavaScript scopes, and it powers the bindings. But how does it integrate? Is it shipped on the phone? Do you ship it with the scope? Can you explain?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, just quickly to maybe answer other questions. Node was the best choice for us to go. We had a whole lot of other options, like Qt options, QJS engine, or even using V8 directly. But Node was by far the best option to take, and over and above all other advantages, the NPM, the library ecosystem, definitely is the big reason why we went with that. So yeah, so we had a bit of a challenge getting Node into the story. One of the major challenges is that Node is an extremely active project, which is a good thing, but is very difficult for a system like a phone where you want to lock down system images that can be persistent for a long period of time. So you go and choose a node version, you go and stick it on the system image, and 2 months later, the node is changed. So so what we did was, and quite interestingly, this was motivated by our move towards a snappy approach, where dependencies are shipped with the package. This way, so basically the route that we took was every scope is shipped with a node executable in it. This is the Unity.js scopes launcher. That is basically wraps node inside it. Does a little bit of smarts with scope stuff just so that it encapsulates that and doesn't make it any more complicated. And that way your scope can go and be shipped with node in it. And, well, to put it plainly, stand the test of time. It can sit there and work for like 2 years or however long. Basically very little is going to break it because all its dependencies are there in the package. Whenever you feel like you want to get the latest version of Node, or you read about something interesting that Node has updated and you would like that in your scope, super simple. You load up your scope project again and you build it. And during the build, we go and pull a new version of Node for you, and you've got new features already with you. So you build your scope, stick it back on the store, and you've got, now your scope works for the later version of Node. Yeah, this is really good for many reasons. You know, one concern is security as well. Node, you know, if you have a security update and you feel like your scope may be vulnerable to that security flaw, then you can update it straight away, get your scope back up, and everyone's happy. Whereas if we were maintaining the Node version on the system image, it could update, get a good security update. We updated, but unfortunately, that update maybe is an ABI breaking update and breaks your scope. Now, ABI breaks are not something you're going to see if you're rebuilding your scope. So, you know, there were a number of reasons why shipping Node with your scope was a far better route to take. So yeah, that's how we integrate Node. David, you're muted.
Wow, I was muted. Sorry about that.
Sorry, for a moment I was wondering whether I was muted and what happened? Was I just talking to myself?
So Dragonback is asking, all the documentation for scopes is under developer.ubuntu.com. Yes, it is, but the JavaScript scope project is rather new, so we don't have a lot of code samples, for example. But we'll make sure we have a bit more before the end of the showdown. But yes, pretty much you have the API documentation, you have guides, you have tutorials that should cover pretty much of your use cases. But
yeah,
if you have any use cases that are not covered, of anything that seem unclear, just please file a bug on developer-ubuntu.com on Launchpad. I'm just pasting the link.
Yeah. One thing that we do have in the project itself is if you can pull Unity.js scopes examples, I think is the package, and you'll get like 3 example projects, which is all right, but I think they're a little dated. They don't cover all of the binary. If I hate to tell people to do this, but what is really useful, I do it myself for a lot of projects. If you go and pull the source of the Unity.js scopes project, I do this with other projects, so I don't think it's that ridiculous. If you look through the unit tests, in fact, not unit tests, we have integration tests. We have a bunch of scopes that we run and test against. So these scopes we try to use as much of the bindings as possible. So using those as examples is really, I mean, it's what I do with other projects as well. I like to go and check out their tests, because tests always, you know, they attempt to get as much coverage as possible. So there are some examples in the source itself as well. So there's the examples package, and then there are some examples in the source code as well, and then the online documentation.
Dragonbite is asking about what about back and forth questions like forum or IRC. So I'm pretty much all day on Ubuntu-app-devel, which is the IRC channel for app development, well, apps and scopes. So you can ask questions there. And I know there are some other people that are invested in scopes that are hanging around here. Marcus, here you are suggesting Ubuntu Devel. I've always seen it as a place for like very low-level questions, like kernel plumbing and stuff like that. But if you are there, that's fine, I guess.
Okay. I might not be on the channel that you're suggesting. What channel were you suggesting?
Ubuntu-app-devel.
Okay. I should probably join that then.
And then you have Ask Ubuntu, which is checked quite a lot. And if you ask a question about scopes there, you should have an answer quite fast. I'm just going to paste it here. askubuntu.com.
Otherwise, I mean, we do. Launchpad also has Q&A. It's not necessarily a bug, and you just have a question. You can go to the Unity.js scopes project, and yeah, there's a answers section. And you get a link to the actual project.
Yes.
Called answers, not questions. But we have. Yeah, we've had 2 questions on there as well, and we treat that the same as bugs, in that we check them often enough. And yeah, we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible.
Nice. So I've been writing a JavaScript scope, and so I've had some issues, but maybe it's because I don't have a lot of experience with JavaScript, about callbacks, and I come from a Python background, and so callbacks are a bit foreign to me. I mean, do you have good examples of how to deal with callbacks from web APIs with JavaScript scopes?
I think it's probably best to put it this way: when you're dealing with Node, it's just the way things are done. It's people call it callback hell. It can become that, but it can be managed. In fact, I looked at your code from the first session, and that's a really nice way of doing it. And that's the best thing I can suggest. You essentially define your function as its own standalone section of code, and later when you go and pass back what should be called in the callback, just put the name of that function rather than going and defining the whole thing in there like a lambda. So that Yeah, that really is the suggestion, and that is the suggestion you'll read online for using all kinds of Node libraries. It's just a Node thing. Callbacks all over the place. It has to be that way because there's no parallel threads per se, not at least available to you. You need to work within their main thread. So if you want something to be called later or done in parallel, it's all callbacks.
Yes, I've seen it called the callbacks pyramid of hell.
Yeah.
And yes, digging into this, can we use things like promises in scopes? Because Node.js has this concept of promises where data from a callback is sent only when it's here.
Right. Yeah, there's actually a promise library in NPM.
Yes, but as far as you know, it's fine to use with scopes, right?
Yeah. It would have to be a case of try it and let us know if something goes wrong, because it should be all right. See, the thing with Node is it really takes a lot of resource management out of our hands. They have a lot of really smart stuff happening to make sure that objects are kept alive long enough that they don't get destroyed and things when they're still in scope of something that should be called later. So if you do use this, it should be all right, even if you've exited the scope of something else. The objects that are required should still be alive, etc. So yeah, I would expect it to work. If it doesn't, it would be scary. Because that would be on the Node side. That would be an issue there.
Okay. So I guess it works. I haven't really tried. I just added the code and then found another way. But yeah.
Okay. Keep pasting the same thing.
Question from Dragonbite. What is the coolest scope you have seen so far? Is it C++, JS, or Go?
What is the coolest scope? It really depends. I mean, it depends on your interests. For me, music is my big interest. So I really like the music scope, but it's not influenced by the language it was written in. It's just because it's a cool scope. Yeah, I like the music scope because there's SoundCloud there, and you can listen to stuff right in the. Now with inline playback, even you can listen to stuff right in the scope, so that's cool.
Yeah, for myself, it's probably well, I use a lot the news scope. It's very handy. It's I've just put it right off my app scope, and just news all the time. Pretty much always refreshed, so it works really nicely. I believe it's C++ or Go. I'm not sure. And then I've discovered a new scope recently, which is the command line scope, which calls command line foo. I think it's the name of the website, and basically just a bunch of bash snippets and said one-liners. It's very cool, and you can actually copy them from the scope preview to the terminal, and it's very nice. It's a very nice idea. And this one, I haven't looked, but I think it's C++. And you, Marcus, do you have scopes published in the store?
Well, not necessarily in the store, but I have worked on the media scopes. I've done my fair share of work on the music and video scopes. What else have I worked on? Worked on the YouTube scope. I've done a lot. I did a lot of the work on the remote scopes. Yeah, I've got a few scopes. They're not necessarily on the store, but they're on the phone.
Nice. I do have a few scopes myself. I need to polish and release. For example, the GitHub scope, which is the example from the last session. The code is actually on Ubuntu developer.com/showdown, and there you have the code for the GitHub scope. So it's pretty cool if you want to have a look at how it all works and how you can just use a simple web API and get your data on your screen. It's pretty easy. Marcus, so a bit earlier you talked about filters and how they are going to come for JavaScript scopes. How are they supposed to work? What are they? I mean, we already have departments. What's the difference?
So departments, it's very easy to see departments as the same thing, but they're not if you think about it. So if you think about Amazon or eBay is a good example. You've got like departments that you could go through. So you want to look for maybe computer parts. So you got computer, or maybe consumer electronics, computer parts, something like that. That would be the department route that you take. Then once you're in the correct department, you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to have a whole bunch of computer parts. You're going to have, CPUs, power supplies, motherboards, all kinds of stuff. Now filters gets really useful when you want to go a bit beyond what departments are available on a service. So maybe there aren't departments like motherboards, CPUs, things like that. So now filters, you can do things like, you can get really, really crazy. Like, okay, I want things that include the text motherboard. I want things that are priced between so many dollars and so many dollars. I want, a whole bunch of things. Maybe for eBay, things that have been listed in the last month, stuff like that. That's where filters gets really cool. And it's like a little icon you click next to the search bar. Although design might change, so don't hold me to that. You get a little popover, and you can select your filters, and then it filters your results down. It really makes narrowing down your searches, especially in things like online stores, maybe even large music databases for stuff like, looking for the latest music from a certain band or things like that. That's where it gets really useful. Yeah.
Nice. So we are going to be able to pick several filters for the same query. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. We are reaching the end of the session. If you have any more questions, they should be asked now. What else? So you have about 4 weeks, a bit less, to enter the Scopes contest. There are already a few entries, and they are quite fun to play with. So the Scope Showdown is for scopes written in C++, JavaScript, and Go. There are a bunch of prizes to win. I'm just going to paste the URL one more time. Here it is. For example, for the first prize is a System 76 Meerkat, which is a mini computer, which is very cool looking, and it's like an Intel NUC, for example, but with 5th generation i5, 8 GB of RAM, this kind of stuff. We also have convergence packs, sorry, which are Bluetooth keyboards and mouse, and we have Ubuntu phone which are BQ Aquarius E5. We also have, I really like that, Valve Steam Link and Steam controllers, which are really cool. What else? We have a Raspberry Pi 2. We have a prize in the contest, which is the Innovation Prize, which is for the most innovative and creative scope. So if you have crazy ideas, for example, I've always had this idea of having a game made in a scope. So I'm not sure how it would work. Maybe it would be an adventure game where you pick your next step. But yeah, for the most creative scope, we have a Raspberry Pi 2, a Steam controller, and a convergence pack. So that's quite a lot of cool prizes. And yeah, if you feel like making a scope, I would, if you are new to scopes, I would invite you to make them in JavaScript because it's really fast and you can really have a prototyping style workflow. So it's quite easy. And yeah, if you have any questions or issue, you can reach out to us on IRC, on Ubuntu-app-devel and Ubuntu-devel, on Google+, Twitter, the regular Ubuntu app development accounts, and we will be there to answer your questions. So do we have any more questions on IRC? Doesn't seem so. Marcus, do you have a last word?
My last words. Have fun. No, yeah, I agree with David. JavaScript scopes, do give it a try. If you have any learning curve to have to take on scopes at all, JavaScript is going to be by far the gentlest curve. So yeah, remember to log bugs and questions as soon as you find them, and we will try and get to them as soon as we can.
Thanks, Marcus. Cool. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for the question. It was really fun. And there is another scope session, which is tomorrow. And if you have any more questions, I'll be there with maybe Marcus and maybe someone else from the Scopes team. We'll see. Bye, everyone. Bye, Marcus.
All right.
Ciao.
Cheers.